The alien palace shimmered like a dream of crystalline fire under the twin moons of Valaria Prime. Broken pillars surrounded the throne courtyard, where bodies still smoldered from the last attack. War was over. At least for now. Captain Elias Ward stood at the edge of the platform. His human armor was cracked and blackened. Blood stained his side. His breaths came shallow, but his heart was full of something else. Hope he had done it. He had saved them, not just his own kind, but them too. The aliens who once called humans savages. The ones who said Earth was backward. The ones who looked at him like he was a tool. And her Queen Amariel of the Zalari Empire stepped forward. Her long silver robes floated like mist, her eyes, glowing violet, locked onto his. She walked slowly, no guards, no weapons. Her people watched from behind the shattered columns, silent, her voice, soft as wind, carried across the courtyard. You saved us. Elias nodded once. He could barely stand. His vision blurred from blood loss, but he stood tall. This moment mattered more than pain. I kept my promise. The queen stopped in front of him. She lifted her hand and gently touched his face. Her skin was cold, strange, but beautiful. She smiled. A soft, almost human smile. Then she leaned in and kissed him. It was slow, tender, and for a breathless second, Elias thought maybe this was real. Maybe they had crossed the line between alien and human, between enemy and lover. Maybe this was the beginning of peace. Then he felt it, the sharp sting below his ribs. He looked down, a curved silver blade buried deep in his side. Her hand still on the hilt. Her face so close he could feel her breath. She whispered, "You are not worthy to touch me, human," and she pushed. The pain came like lightning. His legs gave out. He dropped to his knees. Blood poured from the wound. His body shook. He looked up at her face. Not soft now. Not loving. But proud, cold, victorious. Why? He asked with broken breath. Because you believed you mattered. Her words sliced deeper than the knife. He fell. He hit the stone floor with a soundless gasp. The queen turned and walked away. Her guards closed in behind her. None of them looked down at him. None of them helped. They left him bleeding under the moons. They left him to die. Time passed in a blur. He drifted in and out of pain. Heat, cold, darkness. Voices spoke in alien tongues around him. Shapes moved. Hands lifted him. Lights flashed above, then silence. When he opened his eyes again, the world was dim and gray. He was lying on a narrow bed inside a ship. Not a royal ship. A rebel craft. One of the stolen human Zalari hybrids. A woman stood beside him. Her skin was rough, burned from past battles. A scar ran down her left eye. She wasn't a soldier of the queen. She nodded at him. "You're lucky we found you first." Elias blinked. His mouth was dry. He tried to speak, but no words came. "You were dead when we pulled you from the courtyard. Dead to them, dead to the Empire. But not to us." She placed a hand on his chest. "The queen lied. We saw what she did. We've seen her lies before, but this time she made a mistake. This time she betrayed someone who can fight back." Elias coughed. The pain was sharp. He winced but didn't cry out. He wouldn't give pain the power. "Why save me?" he finally whispered. "Because you saved us first." Stepped aside and let him sit up slowly. Every muscle burned, but he pushed through. He had felt worse. The body would heal, but the soul needed something else. Revenge. The room was quiet, only the soft hum of the engine below. Elias looked at the wall where his armor had been placed. Cleaned, repaired, waiting. He remembered her kiss, the warmth, the lie, the blade that followed. His fists clenched in the back of his mind. A fire began to grow. Not just anger, something stronger. "Purpose." "She thinks I'm dead," he said. Voice like stone. Let her think it. The scarred woman smiled. Not a happy smile. A warrior's smile. "Then let's make her regret it." The ship sped into the blackness of space. Behind them, the Empire celebrated its false peace. But ahead, in the shadows, the real story was just beginning. A man betrayed a queen corrupted, and a galaxy about to witness what a human can become when you leave him broken, but breathing. The grand chamber of the Zalari Palace was filled with light. Shimmering beams danced across the marble floor. Hundreds of alien nobles stood in silence, their heads bowed, their eyes fixed on the queen. She stood at the center of the raised platform. Her voice echoed through the dome as she spoke. Captain Elias Ward betrayed our trust. He sought to take our throne. He used our kindness against us. I ended him before he could destroy us all. There were no gasps, no protests, only silence. Her words moved like poison through the Empire. The humans were dangerous, unstable. She said the Earth Alliance had always planned this. And she, Amariel, the wise and beautiful ruler, had stopped it just in time. But not everyone believed. In the dark corners of the palace, deep beneath the golden walls, a small device blinked red. It had recorded everything: the kiss, the whisper, the knife. A lone servant had hidden it before the ceremony began. Now it carried a truth that could burn the Empire from within. Miles away, inside the hidden rebel ship, Elias sat on a steel bench. His body was stronger now, his mind sharper. He watched the palace broadcast on a screen. The Queen's words poured from the speakers. You all saw what he did. He aimed a weapon at me. He wanted to enslave our people. His heart was never with us. He was a tool of war. And I did what was needed. Elias didn't flinch. His eyes stayed cold. Focus. She's rewriting the truth. The scarred rebel, the woman who had saved him, leaned against the wall. She crossed her arms. She's done this before, many times. But this time, she picked the wrong enemy. What's your name? Elias asked Sora. You fought in the border wars. She nodded twice. Then you know what she's afraid of. Humans. Who think? Sora smiled. Humans who survive. Elias stood. His body ached, but he ignored it. He walked to the back of the ship where old weapons were stored. Dusty crates. Forgotten tech. Things humans had left behind when peace was signed. But peace had always been a lie. He opened one crate. Inside was his old blade, carbon steel, hand-forged back on Earth. He gripped the handle. It still fit his hand perfectly. I want the galaxy to know what she did. Sora tilted her head. You mean the recording? You have it. She pulled out a small device, placed it on the table, pressed play, and there it was. Her voice. You are not worthy to touch me, human. The room fell silent. Elias stared at the device. His jaw clenched. This is not justice yet. But it's a start. We can leak it. Not yet. Why? Because if we strike too soon, they'll bury it, discredit it. I want the truth to spread like fire, slow at first, then impossible to stop. What do we do then? Elias turned to her. We give them a reason to listen. Sora stepped closer. There's someone I know, a slicer. Half Zalari, half human. He used to work for the Royal Data Archives before they branded him a traitor. He can help us release this in a way they can't erase. Where is he? Elias looked at her with calm fire. Let's go ask him. Meanwhile, back in the palace, the Queen walked through her private garden. Her guards followed at a distance. Her steps were slow, her mind unsettled. A voice spoke beside her. You seem restless, my queen. It was Vara's, her royal advisor. A thin man with sharp eyes and a tongue like a blade. They are beginning to whisper, she replied coldly. Let them whisper. Whispers can be silenced, and if they shout. She stopped walking. Then I will remind them who holds the crown. Vara's hesitated. There was a device missing from the courtyard. Her eyes narrowed. How? One of the servants. He was found dead. But the recorder is still missing. She looked up at the moon above. Then find it, and if it has already been copied, then we burn every voice that speaks of it. She turned sharply and walked away. But even in her silence, she could feel it. The truth was moving, quiet, but alive. Back on the rebel ship, Elias and Sora reached the outer rim. A jump planet where outcasts survived in metal towers built from scrap inside a hidden bunker. A young man with glowing green implants turned to greet them, so the dead man walks. Elias nodded, and he's ready to speak. The slicer, named Jex, grinned then. Let's make her scream. He connected the device. The queen's voice played once more. The kiss, the blade, the betrayal. He smiled as the code ran across his screen. This will leak into every noble house, every military channel, every neutral planet's network. Once it starts, no one can stop it. But you'll be hunted. Let them come, Elias said quietly. Jex hit the button, and the truth was free back in the palace. Vara stormed into the queen's chamber. It's spreading. What is? She snapped the footage. It's everywhere. The queen stared at the screen. Her face stared back at her. Her voice played in every room of the palace. The nobles looked away. The guards shifted uneasily. She turned away from the screen. Her breath heavy. Erase it. We can't. Then find him. Find Elias Ward and tear the stars. From his lungs Varez bowed. Yes, my queen. But in his eyes, there was doubt. Back on the junk planet, Elias stepped outside. The wind was dry. The stars above seemed closer here. He breathed in deep. The fire inside him burned brighter than before. The queen had lied, but now the galaxy knew, and it was only the beginning. The training chamber was buried deep inside an old mining asteroid. No windows, no light from stars. Just steel walls and flickering screens. A place built for pain. Elias stood at the center. Shirtless, scars across his chest. Wounds old and new. The room was cold. His breath came out in clouds. Begin simulation, he said. The lights snapped red. Combat drones dropped from the ceiling. 3 of them, moving fast, blades out. Lasers locked. Elias didn't flinch. He moved not with strength, with precision. One drone lunged. He slid under it and smashed its core with a metal rod. Another fired. He rolled, grabbed the fallen blade, and cut through the second. The third circled high. He stared at it, waited, listened, then jumped. Too fast for a normal man. But Elias was no longer just a man. He brought the drone crashing down. Sparks flew. The chamber went dark. For a moment silence followed. Then a voice from the booth above spoke. Eov, improved. Sora stepped out of the shadowed corner, her arms crossed. Her eyes tired but impressed. Elias nodded. Pain is a good teacher. Jex entered. Behind her, holding a tablet. The footage is still spreading. Even in core systems, the queen can't stop it anymore. People are starting to question her. Riots in 4 cities. One of her generals just defected. Elias said nothing. He picked up a towel, wiped the blood from his lip. It's not enough. He turned. To face them, truth can spark a fire, but fear wins wars. They stared at him, confused. What do you mean? Sora asked. They need to fear me, not just Herm. He walked toward a locked case at the far end of the chamber. Entered a code. The door opened with a heavy hiss. Inside was the armor, not the standard Earth military suit. This one was different. Dark plates, forged from Zilari steel. Human tech mixed with alien design. Symbols carved into the shoulders. The mark of unity. The mark of war. He built this in secret, during peace talks. They told me not to wear it. Said it sent the wrong message. Jex raised an eyebrow. What message does it send? Elias stared into the mask. That humans are not tools, we are storms. He put it on, piece by piece. His body filled with weight and purpose. When he stood tall, he was no longer Elias Ward, the betrayed soldier. He was something else. The galaxy had broken him. Now he would break it back elsewhere. Aboard a Zilari dreadnought, Queen Amar Isle paced inside the command chamber. Her hands trembled behind her back. Reports flew across the screens. Uprisings, leaks, ships refusing orders. Vara's stood nearby. We underestimated him. She turned sharply. He's one man. No, he's more than that now. As a symbol. The queen clenched her fists. Then we crush the symbol. Her voice rose. Prepare the purge fleet. We erase every world that dares speak his name. Starting with Earth. Vara's blinked, but our alliance is broken by him. She raised her hand. No more words. burn everything back on the rebel base. Elias gathered his team, Sora, Jex, a former Zalari prince named Kor, who had lost his family to the Queen's secret assassins, a human pilot who flew without eyes, a child soldier born in a lab who had never seen daylight. Each of them carried scars. Each of them believed Elias stood before them. She thinks we're weak. She thinks we're scattered. She forgot one thing. He paused. Let them feel it. Humans don't run the team. Boarded an old transport ship, painted black, armed to the teeth. They didn't fly toward Earth. Not yet. They flew toward a prison moon, the place where the Queen kept her enemies, including a man named Rayan, once the supreme tactician of the Zalari fleet. Now locked in a hole. Elias needed him, not for war, for strategy. The ship broke through the storm clouds of the moon. Towers of stone and steel rose like teeth from the surface. Inside, guards spotted the rebel signal and fired too late. The ship dropped smoke, cloaked itself, landed hard on the outer wall. Elias led the charge. He moved like a ghost. No sound, no pause. Guards fell before they could speak. Doors cracked open. Cells unlocked. They reached the bottom level, and there he was, Rayan, thin but awake. Elias pulled the door open. You know who I am. Old General looked up. I watched you bleed on the palace floor. Then you know why I'm Harry, and smiled. For the first time in years, to return the favor, they walked out side by side. The rebels escaped just as alarms roared across the moon. In the distance, the Queen's ships began to move. Earth was now in danger. The clock had started ticking inside the command room of the rebel vessel. Elias removed his helmet, looked at the stars ahead. Jex turned to him. You still think we can win? Oh, Elias said, I know it, and when we shall kneel, not for mercy, but for forgiveness. The lights of Earth came into view on the horizon, and Elias Ward, the human weapon, was coming home. The rebel ship floated in orbit above a forgotten moon. Shadows passed over the hull as Elias stood at the viewing window. He wasn't looking at stars. He was watching the small craft being brought into the docking bay. No markings, no signals. Just a silent call sent to his private channel, one that used a code only Amarile would know. Sora stood behind him. You think it's a trap? He nodded slowly. That would be her style. The ship landed. The door opened, but no guards came out, no soldiers, no weapons, only a child, a girl. She stepped forward with steady feet. Pale skin, long dark hair that shimmered with violet strands. Her eyes were bright, human eyes, but glowing like the Queen's. Elias couldn't breathe for a moment. The child looked up at him. No fear, no anger, just curiosity. Are you Elias Ward? His voice barely came out. Yes. She tilted her head. My name is Lyra. My mother said you would protect me. Silence filled the bay. Sora stepped forward quickly, scanning for hidden threats. None. No chips, no poisons. Just a girl, alone, carrying nothing but a small silver pendant. Elias took it from her hands and opened it. Inside, a picture of Amarile smiling, holding the child, and beside her a hidden photo of him. He stepped back, cold washing over him. How old are you? 9. Elias stared at the floor. She never told me. The child spoke again. She said if anything happened to her, you would know what to do. Elias looked up. What happened to her? The girl shook her head. I don't know. She said bad people were coming. She sent me away in secret. Sora's voice was sharp. This doesn't make sense. She tried to kill you. Now she sends you her daughter. Elias looked at Lyra again, so much like her mother, but there was something different in her eyes, something warmer, softer. He crouched down. Why do you trust Mesh? Blinked once. Because she cried when she said your name. The words hit like thunder. In all the years since the betrayal, Elias had never imagined her crying. He had only seen the mask, the blade, the lid, but this child was real. He stood slowly and turned to Sora. Clear a room. She stays with you. Was her serious? She's mine. The room shifted. After that, no one said it out loud, but everything changed. Elias trained harder, moved faster, planned deeper. Not just for revenge now, but for her. Lyra followed him like a shadow, watching, learning, sometimes asking questions no child should ask. Why did she hurt you? Why do people die? Why does everyone hate Earth at every time? Elias answered. He softened, not because he was weak, but because he wanted her to grow up stronger than he had ever been. But not everyone welcomed her. Jax pulled Sora aside late one night. You can't tell me you trust this. She's just a kid. She's the Queen's blood. And Elias Exley, what does that mean? It means when the time comes, one of them may have to choose. And what if she chooses wrong? Sora said nothing back in the command room. Elias sat beside Lyra as she studied an old human history file. Videos from Earth, stories of wars, heroes, loss. She turned to him. Were you born in a place like that? Yes. Did you have a mom and dad? He smiled. For the first time in a while. I did. They were kind, taught me to fight, taught me to love. She leaned on his arm. Do you think my mom loved you? He looked into her glowing eyes. I think she didn't know how to. Until it was too late. Lyra nodded slowly. She told me humans forgive. That's what makes them strong. Elias closed his eyes. Sometimes, but not always. Before more could be said, an alarm echoed through the ship. Sora burst into the room. The Queen's fleet is moving again, but not toward us. Toward her own capital. Why? We don't know. Elias stood ready. The ship we're going after her. Jax protested. What if it's a trap? Then we spring it. They flew through the dark like ghosts, silent, hidden, reaching the edge of the Queen's territory in hours, and what they saw made their blood run cold. The Queen's palace burned, not from rebels, from her own generals. They had turn screens, showed her captured, dragged through her own throne room, a mob outside chanting her name, not with love, with hate. Elias watched in silence. Sora whispered, looks like you broke more than her heart. Jax looked at Elias. What now? Do we let them tear her apart? Lyra spoke softly. She's still my mother. Elias nodded. And she's still my enemy, but I won't let them make her a symbol, like she tried to do to me. Prepare for landing. They arrived as chaos boiled below. Soldiers turned to look as Elias Ward stepped from the ship, in full armor, with a child by his side. The rebels parted. The crowd fell silent. He walked through the gates, past the broken pillars, the same place where he had once bled alone, and now she knelt there, wounded, shackled, defeated. Amari looked up and saw him, her eyes filled with tears. Elias stepped closer, face unreadable, armor glowing under the firelight. Lyra walked ahead of him and stood between them. Mother, father. The Queen closed her eyes. I didn't want her to see me like this. Aya spoke, voice low. You wanted me dead, but gave me her. Why? Because I loved you, even when I hated you. Even when I lied. The words were quiet, broken. Reliela stood still, then turned to the soldiers. Take her to the upper cell. Treat her wounds. No one touches her unless I say so. Gasps followed, but no one dared disobey. Lyra looked up at him. Will she be okay? Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. That depends on what kind of queen she becomes next. The stars over Earth were peaceful. From orbit, the planet looked calm. Blue oceans, green lands, bright lights blinking across continents. No one below knew what was coming. Inside the rebel command ship, Elias stood before a glowing table. The galaxy spun in holographic motion. Red markers pulsed across the screen. Sora's voice cut through the silence. We have confirmation. The Queen's backup fleet has broken off from her command. They're not going to rescue her. They're going to attack Earth. Elias clenched his jaw. They're punishing us. Punishing me? Jax tapped the screen. Fleet strength is massive. Over 30 warships, 2 dreadnoughts, and a planet killer prototypes. Sora stepped forward. Why Earth? Why not us? Because Earth is home. Elias turned toward the window. And they want to show the galaxy that no one is safe. Not even the ones who made peace. He looked down at the table again. What? Earth's defense status? Jax shook his head. Scattered, outdated. Half of the orbital fleet was decommissioned last year. They don't stand a chance. Sora's voice dropped. We need to warn them. No, Elias said, we need to stop them. Room fell quiet. Sora walked closer. You want to fight 30 ships? With what? With something older than fear. Something humans built before we ever left the system. Jax narrowed his eyes. You don't mean that thing, the relic? Elias nodded once. Yes, the Arkbreaker. It was more than a ship. It was a weapon buried inside the rings of Saturn, hidden since the First War, a secret project built by Earth's ancient defense division abandoned. Too dangerous, too powerful, too human. The crew exchanged looks. Sora's voice was low. You really think it still works? It has to. Elias turned toward the bay. Prep the jump. We're going to Saturn. Hours later, the rebel ship tore across the void, slipping through old routes known only to Black Ops pilots. Lyra sat beside Elias in the cockpit, her small hands folded, her eyes staring at the stars. She spoke softly. Why do they hate Earth so much? Elias didn't answer at first. Then he looked at her. Because we never give up. Because we don't know how to bow. She nodded slowly. Will you win? He looked ahead. I don't know. But I'll never let them take what I love. When they reached the rings of Saturn, the signal was faint, buried deep inside the dust and stone. They followed it through the debris field, through a cloud of ancient satellites, and then they saw it. Arkbreaker, a giant black vessel hidden within a hollow asteroid, long and sharp like a blade, its surface covered in rust and forgotten code. Sleeping, waiting. Elias stood at the window. Waked Jex tapped the console. Old frequencies came to life. The asteroid opened like a broken mouth, and the ship inside powered up. Sora stared at the screen. This thing could destroy a moon. That's not the plan. Then what is? Elias stepped forward. We show them what humanity can become when you try to erase it. They docked with the Arkbreaker, boarded its dark halls. Ancient tech blinked. Awake turrets rotated, shields hummed, weapons systems loaded. The AI voice came online. Identify command authority. Elias stepped into the light. Captain Elias Ward. Authorization Echo 9. Identity confirmed. Welcome back. Commander Jex whispered. This is insane. Sora smiled. This is perfect. Back near Earth, the enemy fleet appeared in orbit, their ships large, glowing with red engines. Alien commanders spoke in cold voices. Initiate ground lock target capital zones. Prepare for orbital strike. Earth's defense systems lit up, but too slowly. 2 weak civilians ran through streets. Sirens screamed, panic spreading the sky. A massive shadow appeared. The Arkbreaker dropped from hyperspace above the planet, a sword falling from the heavens. Its shields flared bright. Its cannons locked onto the enemy fleet on the bridge. Elias stood tall in his armor. Lyra beside him. Sora and Jex at the stations. This is Captain Elias Ward. To all enemy vessels, this planet is under human protection. Leave now or be erased. No one moved. Then the alien flagship fired a beam of white heat cut through space. But the Arkbreaker held return fire. Elias said the cannons unleashed. The first enemy ship exploded. Then another. The dreadnoughts turned. But the Arkbreaker was faster, smarter. Human designate the palace prison, far away. Amariel watched the broadcast from her cell. She saw the Arkbreaker rise, saw Elias standing at the command. Her hand trembled. She whispered. He brought it back one by one. The enemy ships fell, but the planet killer remained a giant floating fortress, its core glowing, preparing for one final shot. Jex called out. We can't stop that blast. Not even with this ship. Elias stared at the screen. There's one way. He turned to Lyra. You stay here. No matter what. He stepped into the launch bay, entered a small pod armed it with a core disruptor. Sora's voice crackled over the speaker. That's suicide. Elias smiled. It's justice. He launched toward the planet killer, dodging fire, flying straight into the weapon's core. The countdown hit 0, but Elias was faster. He released the disruptor. It sank into the engine. The explosion came seconds later. The planet killer shattered. A wave of light burned across the sky inside the Arkbreaker. Lyra stared at the screen, her eyes wide. Sora whispered. He did it. Jex added. He saved Earth, but no signal came back. No word from Elias. Silence filled the ship. Lyra stood tall. He's not gone. He's never gone. And in that moment, the galaxy knew one thing. You can wound a human, you can betray them, but if you threaten what they love, they will rise higher than fear and burn brighter than stars. The Zalari Palace was no longer the place it once had been. Shadows stretched long across the marble floors. The grand halls echoed with whispers and fear. Queen Amariel sat on her shattered throne. Her silver robes lay in ruins. Her violet eyes, once bright with power, were now clouded with doubt. The recordings had spread like wildfire. The truth was everywhere. Her people no longer saw her as a ruler. They saw her as a liar. Outside the palace, generals gathered, their faces grim, their loyalty fading like stars at dawn. Varus, the royal advisor, stood beside the queen. His sharp eyes studied her carefully. He spoke in a low voice. "The people do not follow fear anymore, my queen. They follow strength." And Elias' ward grows stronger with every passing day. The queen's hands clenched tightly. She leaned forward, voice trembling but fierce. "Then we must be stronger, stronger than him. Stronger than his rebels." Varus nodded. "We have the purge fleet ready. We will crush them all." Amariel closed her eyes. She remembered the prophecy whispered in the old temples. A child born of two worlds. A weapon. Of fire and shadow. The one who would bring the throne down. That child was real. Her daughter, her heart ached. Not from guilt, but from fear. Fear of losing everything. Meanwhile, far from the palace, Elias stood on the bridge of the Arkbreaker. His armor gleamed under the cold stars. The galaxy had watched him rise from the ashes. A human weapon forged in betrayal and pain. Lyra stood beside him. Her eyes shone with determination. She was no longer just a child. She was the symbol of a new future. Jax and Sora worked at the consoles, tracking enemy movements. Elias spoke quietly. "The queen fears what we have become. She fears the truth we carry." Sora nodded. Her voice was calm but firm. "She fears the unity of our worlds, and she will stop at nothing to destroy it." Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. Red lights flooded the bridge. Jax shouted. "Enemy fleet detected. They are closer than expected." Elias turned to the holographic map. Ships surrounded the Arkbreaker. Their numbers were vast, but their movements were desperate. Varus's voice came through a scrambled channel. "We know you hide behind that weapon. Surrender now, Elias Ward, or watch your new empire burn." Elias smiled. "You forget. We are not afraid to burn." He gave the order. "Prepare for battle." The Arkbreaker roared to life. Cannons spun. Shields flared. The first wave hit hard. Explosions rocked the ship. But Elias stood steady. He remembered the pain of betrayal. The blood spilled on alien stone. The queen's cold whisper. And he fought not just for revenge, but for hope. The battle raged through space. Light tore through darkness. The Arkbreaker danced between blasts, its human crew fierce and unyielding. In the midst of chaos, Lyra watched her father. She saw the fire in his eyes, not hate, but something stronger. Love. Back at the palace, Amariel. Power crumbled. Her generals turned against her. The people's chants grew louder. She was no longer their queen. Varus knelt beside her. "The throne is lost, my queen." Amariel's voice was soft. "Then it is time to face the child." The final battle was near. The queen who feared, the human who rose, and a galaxy waiting to see which story would live. The throne room was silent except for the distant hum of dying machines. Smoke curled from cracked pillars. The air was thick with dust and tension. Elias stepped forward, heavy armor gleaming faintly in the pale light. Lyra walked beside him, calm and steady, her violet eyes reflecting both her human and Zalari heritage. At the far end of the hall, Amariel sat shackled, her regal robes torn and dirty. Her eyes lifted slowly. They burned with a mix of pride and regret. "You came," she said, voice low but sharp. Elias stopped a few paces away. He did not smile. He did not look away. "I did," he replied. A bitter silence stretched between them. Amariel's voice softened. "You were never meant to survive." He shook his head. "I was meant to live, to fight, to prove you wrong." She looked down. Her hands trembled. "You taught me what hate looks like," Elias said. "But I've learned something better." He took a step closer. His voice grew steady and strong. "Humanity is not perfect. We make mistakes, we bleed, we fall. He looked at Lyra, who stood tall and proud. But we rise, we forgive. And we protect what we love. The queen's eyes flickered. You speak of forgiveness, but what of betrayal? Ilias's voice hardened. Betrayal cuts deep, but it does not break us. He knelt down, facing Amariel. His hand hovered over the broken crown at her feet. This crown, he said softly, is empty without honor, without trust, without love. Amariel swallowed hard. Her gaze locked on his. Do you forgive me? He stood slowly. This is not about forgiveness. He turned to the crowd of Zalari rebels who filled the hall. This is about justice. He raised his hand, holding the broken crown high. Your reign ends here. Your lies have fallen. The galaxy will remember the truth. The crowd erupted. In cheers, hope and rage mingled in their voices. Amariel looked at Lyra, her daughter. The bridge between two worlds. Lyra stepped forward. Her voice calm but filled with power. Mother, it is time to choose who you truly are. Amariel nodded slowly. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, I was never worthy of you. But perhaps you are worthy of me. Ilias smiled gently. Then let us build a new future. The old queen was led away, not as a prisoner, but as a warning. The Zalari Empire began to heal. With Ilias and Lyra guiding it, humanity's spirit burned brighter than ever. In the quiet moments that followed, Ilias looked to the stars. He knew the fight was not over. But he was ready, because when the galaxy says you are not worthy, that is the moment to show them what being human truly means. And Elias Ward was just getting started.